Welcome to part 3 of photosynthesis then. This one is about leaf structure and adaptations. So in this part, we can see all the different tissues that you find in a leaf. Now remember, tissues are collections of similar cells which carry out a similar function. So let's look at them each individually. Now this big complicated diagram, what are we actually looking at? This is as if we've taken a leaf, we've chopped it here, and then we flipped it, and we're now looking at the different layers that you would see under a microscope. So it's as if we've taken this leaf, chopped it, and now we're looking just against a cross section of it. Now, let's start at the top layer and work down. So the first layer is the waxy cuticle. Now, that's just this layer up at the top. The important things about it is that it's transparent and it prevents water loss. And it is just this layer up here. Now, it's important that it prevents water loss because if you think about it, light's going to be shining down on the plant and that's going to get quite hot, and water normally evaporates and goes upwards. So we want to try and reduce the amount of water that actually evaporates out of the leaf, or the leaf would dry out and overall that would eventually kill the plant. So the waxy cuticle is transparent to allow light through and it prevents water loss. Its main job that we need to talk about is preventing water loss. The next layer down is this layer, and this is the upper epidermis. And the point of this layer is it protects the upper surface of the leaf. In this layer, there's not really much happening. It's pretty much just a layer of cells which help protect the uppermost surface of the leaf. So there's no chloroplasts or anything, just plain old boring plant cells. The next layer down here is this layer. And this layer has an extremely important job to do in the leaf. This layer is the palisade mesophyll. And its main job is to carry out photosynthesis. Now later on in this video we're going to look at how it's adapted for photosynthesis. So moving on to the next little layer then. The next layer that we come to is this layer. This layer contains loosely packed cells, and this is the spongy mesophyll layer, and its main job is gas exchange, and later on we'll talk about how it's adapted for gas exchange. Moving on, the next layer is this, which is the lower epidermis, and like the upper epidermis, it just protects the leaf, but it also has two other little structures in it. It has these little cells here, which are known as guard cells. The guard cells are found either side of a little pore, which allows gases to move in and out of the leaf, and that is called a stoma. Now, you'll have heard of these, but mainly in their plural form. So stoma is singular, stomata is the plural form, and these are usually found on the lower surface of a leaf. The next thing we come to is this area of cells, and this is known as the phloem, and that transports sugars, not just through the leaf but the entire plant. this section here with the hexagonal looking cells is the xylem, and it is there to transport water and ions through the plant. So this is the main structures found in a leaf, with a very, very brief explanation of their job. If we just pick out a few more things which we might find and we might talk about, we've got these areas here, which are air spaces, and they, as you'll see here, are found in the spongy mesophyll. They allowed gases to circulate through the leaf. As well as that, if we look at this cell here, which is in the palisade mesophyll, we can see things that you'd find in a normal plant cell. You can see the vacuole, the chloroplasts, the nucleus, and the cell wall. Now, for a leaf or a cell to be able to photosynthesize, what has to happen is light has to shine down through the waxy cuticle, through the epidermis, through the cell wall, and into a chloroplast of a plant cell. Because remember, the job of a chloroplast is that it contains chlorophyll, which traps light. So photosynthesis happens in the chloroplast. Now, slightly different diagram, but it still has all the same features and all the same layers. So, just going through it really quickly, the waxy cuticle prevents water loss and is transparent. The xylem carries water and the phloem carries sugar. The stomata allow gases to diffuse in and out of the leaf. Now, what I said was that we were going to talk about how different layers were adapted. So, very briefly, the palisade mesophyll is adapted for photosynthesis. And it's adapted for photosynthesis because it has lots of chloroplasts. The cells are very tightly packed and squashed together. And they're found near the upper surface of the leaf, where they can get the most light. The spongy mesophyll is adapted for gas exchange because it has loosely packed cells, which means that a large surface area of each cell is exposed for gas exchange, and they also have moist surfaces, which means that the gases can dissolve. And finally then, the epidermis found at the upper and lower surfaces of the leaf are there to protect the leaf. This section just shows us a microscope image of a leaf which has been cut. So this is a real life leaf we're looking at. Now, as you can see here, it's extremely difficult to even see the waxy cuticle because it's so thin, but it has such an important job to do. It prevents water loss, so the leaf doesn't dry out and die. We then have the upper epidermis, which protects the leaf, the palisade mesophyll, which is this layer, spongy mesophyll, which is here, the lower epidermis, which is this area, the stomata, which are the little pores, and the guard cells at either side. So there's all our little guard cells. We have a little vein, which will contain some xylem and phloem, and then we've got the little air spaces, which are found in the spongy mesophyll, which allow gases to circulate in the leaf. Now, if I were you, I would pause it here, see if you can label parts 1 to 9 on this diagram. So just make a list, numbers 1 to 9, see if you can remember what each part is called. And even better, see if you can write one sentence about what each part does. And if you can't, go back and rewatch it and then attempt it again. Now this section just shows us how leaves are adapted for photosynthesis. So first of all, they've got a large surface area, which maximizes the area for light to be absorbed. So if they have a large surface area, it basically means that they've got more space where they can absorb light. They've also got a thin leaf. Now, when we mean thin leaf, we mean the distance from the top to the bottom. That's important because it allows all the cells to receive light. So it means that if you've only got a thin leaf, it's not very difficult for light to reach all the cells. A thin, transparent cuticle, it reduces water loss, which is its main job, but because it's transparent, it allows light to enter the leaf. It has lots of chloroplasts, which contain chlorophyll, which absorbs light or traps light. And then we've got a tightly packed palisade mesophyll, which ensures many cells rich in chloroplasts are found near the upper surface where they can absorb and get the most light. The leaf's also adapted for gas exchange because it has stomata and air spaces, and all the adaptations that we talked about in the spongy mesophyll. So the stomata are pores at the bottom of the leaf, each one surrounded by guard cells. The air spaces allow the gases to circulate around the cells in the leaf. And this bit just shows you how stomata actually open and close. So this one is a closed stomata, and these things here are the guard cells. So there we have a guard cell, and this one is an open stomata or an open stoma. This bit just shows them opening and closing. Now, one of the parts of this is understanding where you find stomata. You'll have noticed that you only see them on the lower surface of the leaf, so within the lower epidermis. Now, they're found there so that they don't get blocked easily, and because if they're on the lower surface of the leaf, they allow gases to enter and leave, but they don't allow water to leave as easily, so they help prevent water loss by being at the bottom. They will be open during the day when they can photosynthesize, or when the plant can photosynthesize, and they will close during the night or to prevent water loss. So if it's very, very hot weather and the plant's losing a lot of water, they can close so that not much water escapes.